And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Thursday, June 6th. I'm Josh Engleman, and I'm here to break down game one of the NBA Finals. The Dallas Mavericks, 6.5-point underdogs in Boston, 215 total. Excited to have some basketball back for the first time in a week. We have not been here talking hoops in a while. It feels good. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow me on Twitter. Also, shout out to Underdog for being the sponsor of this show. Good morning, everybody. It is good to be back. We have basketball once again, at least 4 more games, maximum of 7. I'm on the Boston side here. We'll see where we end up, though, once this series is over. I'm excited. I hope you guys are. It should be fun. It should be fun. It's going to be good. It's going to be good ball. That much I'm confident in. 215 total. A little bit higher than I was expecting. But, you know, these teams probably lean a little bit more offense than defense. Tolga, give me the Mavs. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it. I'll even say this, Tolga. I'm not even confident it's an amazing series. Just so people see it. Tolga said it's going to be an amazing series. I'm not sure that's true. I think Boston is significantly better than the Dallas Mavericks. We'll see how that plays out. I don't like betting against Luka. That's not fun. That dude's real good, and he will be, or should be, the best player in this series. If Luka Doncic isn't the best player in the series, Dallas has a 0% chance to win. That'll be the interesting part of it all. Do I think they sweep? No. They'll have a day where they can't make a 3. To me, 6 is the most likely scenario for me. I think you get a game where Kyrie and Luka are just unstoppable, and I think you get a game where Boston just can't buy a bucket. But the rest of this should just be Boston. Poe DGen Stoner with the super chat for the Cannabis and Snacks Fund. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. Do I still think the Mavs trade was bad? Okay, let's have that conversation before we get started. Because it keeps coming up as if the evaluation should be all that different. So, obviously, like, the further you go, the more you're just willing to hand wave it and say, like, this worked. And to a degree, I get that. But if we go back and look at the Gafford trade, the idea of trading a first-round draft pick in your future to get Daniel Gafford, who I think we've learned at the very least here is the second best center on Dallas. So they traded the future first for a backup. Now, did they need to solidify that position? Yeah. Does that, like, sometimes you just need to grab assets and say, screw the future. But, like, to me, we can't just disregard the fact that they traded a future, like an important future asset to get Daniel Gafford. We're seeing now, like, could you rely on Derek Lively at that point? No, he's a rookie. But what we're learning is that Derek Lively is the future center for Dallas, and they kicked a first-round pick out of the nest to do it. The PJ Washington one is, I don't even know how to talk about it. Like, here's the easiest way to do it. Let's go here. Now, let's go here. Before we dive into it, let's talk PJ Washington. They obviously, I think that PJ Washington is just simply, like, I don't love giving up that future asset for PJ Washington to get this done. I think that is a problem. However, I think Dallas is happy that they got PJ Washington. I think Dallas is more happy that they don't have Grant Williams. Now, if we think about it from the Darko projection model, if we want to just take our opinions out of it in terms of like eye test, if we want to just talk data, if we look at this is telling. So it's going to be Grant Williams, and it's going to be PJ Washington. And this is where it's really wild. You can see on this screenshot, this is a chart of like basically how talented they are in their role. You can basically see these guys were like equals the moment that deal got made. And then immediately PJ Washington was basically the same guy he had been, maybe a little bit better. And then Grant Williams just fell off of a cliff. So that broke perfectly for Dallas. But let's just think about what PJ Washington has been for Dallas. In the regular season, he played 29 games for the Dallas Mavericks. He shot 31% from three. His true shooting with Dallas was 52%. Guys, that's terrible. That's terrible. At least based on regular season information, you can't look at PJ Washington and think, that's the pedigree I want to get for a first-round draft pick. Has the defense been better? Sure, I'll give that. Do we need to look at playoff stats? So for the entire playoffs, he is shooting 36% from three. So he became basically an average three-point shooter in the playoffs. He shot 31% from three against the Clippers. He shot 25% from three in that series against Minnesota. The whole PJ Washington narrative is attached to the Oklahoma City series, where he shot the lights out. He made 47% of his threes. I'm not going to disregard that. The ball goes in, and that's what they got out of him in OKC. They needed that in the OKC series, or that series plays out a lot different. I'm not confident we're seeing like a guy that should be traded for a first-round pick out of PJ Washington. Am I crazy? Like, are the trades working for Dallas? Yes. They got themselves to the finals. I think they do it every single day of the week. But we can't forget that they traded multiple future assets to do it. Those things don't go away. And if they don't win the title here, they're not going to be happy with making the finals and losing. At least the players won't. It's certainly an accomplishment. You wouldn't want to change that you wouldn't want to just not be there. But as I look at it, this is a team now that will have bigger problems trying to upgrade in the future based on these moves that they made here. It's not that they gave up draft capital. It's that they gave up 2 future draft pieces for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. What can they have gotten if they don't make that trade? Is it better to lose in the Western Conference Finals and have those 2 picks in the future for the offseason to make a real move? Is that better? We don't know. We can't know. We can only hypothesize. And that's why I'm more muted on what this trade was. Because it's not even, one, I don't like trading those future assets, but 2, it's about what you could have done with those picks otherwise. And to me, having those 2 picks, freeing up more picks after July 1st, I think the path to a better Mavs team might have been keeping those assets and eating this year. They go out there and beat Boston in the finals. None of this shit matters. They go out and win and pick up the title. They'll cash those checks forever. You trade those picks, they won't give a single shit. But if not, it's interesting. It's interesting. But it's not like Daniel Gafford's been great in the playoffs. He's a seat filler. Dunks and threes has individual game EPMs for how well people are playing. You can see the graphic for Daniel Gafford in the playoffs. It hasn't been good. Did he have a good game 5 or game 4 with Lively out? Absolutely. Game before that, horrific. He's just been a guy. But if they win, nothing matters. It's a dub. Fun to talk about though. Like it's tough. It's a hard game. It's a hard needle to thread here for Dallas, but they're going to hit an offseason where they don't have the ability to make as many moves because of those deals. That's scary. All righty. Let's talk basketball. I assume you guys are ready. And sort of everything that we just talked about kind of plays in to the way that I want to discuss this series. So I ran my sims. I have all of my exposures and stuff on the screen right now, but this is the big thing that I want to talk about. This is something that came into my mind last night, baked on the couch, just thinking it through. Because we talk a lot about so-and-so's a good play, so-and-so's a bad play, play this dude, don't play that dude, all of that stuff. But I think we need to change the way that we talk about all of this stuff. Myself included. I'm as guilty as anybody. Whether it's Luka Doncic, Kyrie, PJ Washington, Porzingis, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, whoever we're talking about, it's not binary. It's not you play this guy, you don't play this guy. It's all a spectrum. Even somebody that's a bad play, the most negatively leveraged guy you can find. Let's just put it in that standpoint. That guy's still in positive winning lineups somewhere. No matter what. If you think that a guy is a decent play, you can build a package of lineups that still project to be good lineups in a contest. And we get bogged down on thinking and talking like, this guy's a guy, you should fade this dude. You can't play him. Like, maybe you're not a huge Daniel Gafford guy for this series. There are still positive ROI, high, top 1% lineups that will exist with Daniel Gafford. So, like, as we look at this, this is the Stokastic sim, and I have all the results here, but you could look, no matter which one of these guys that you want to look at, if we're looking at somebody and it's just like, oh, Drew Holiday is very negatively leveraged, like he's a guy I'm trying to get away from, he's too expensive. It's like, sure, like that could be a path you take, but at the same time, like if you think Drew Holiday is the worst dude, he's also in the second best sim ROI lineup. I kind of want to talk about this more in terms of like, who do we think gets the best matchups? Who do we see as guys that can succeed the most? And sort of let like salary and leverage is less important to me because we already have all of this additional data. I can manually manipulate some of my exposures based on just the way that I think a game can play out. And by doing that, it's not just me artificially bumping projections. Oh, I like Maxi Kleber, so I'm going to project him 5 points ahead of where everybody else is. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be, I think this is a series where Maxi Kleber can get additional run. Maybe I target a couple of the higher ROI lineups for Maxi Kleber. Because then you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting everything that you want in your mind, but you're letting the data do the work to get you there. This is the step that's always been missing. Because in the past, let's say we were using Fantasy Cruncher. I used it for 10 years. In that situation, you're kind of like, oh, I got to give a thumbs up to Maxi Kleba. I got to give a double bump to Maxi Kleba. But in all actuality, what the goal really is I just want to select the best Maxi Kleba lineups that I can. Maybe I have to run 3 or 4 sims. You get a couple that pop up and you slowly build out a pool. Maybe that's the way that it has to be done. But like, let's just think about Maxi for a second. Did we get any decent ROI lineups? If I type in Maxi here, like right away, if I think that Maxi's the guy, I can just filter down to all of the Maxi Kleba lineups and I can make my choices from there. Like in this case, I've got, I already got the first couple positive Maxi lineups. This is the way that I think everybody probably wants to look at DFS. I talk so much about data. All we do is dig into the analytics of it all. And we talk about it like, this is the guy I'm getting to. I think he's a good play. And I don't think that we have to do that. Make the path in your mind that you think is going to play out, and then use the advanced data to build your portfolio. I think that's what everybody really wants. And it's right here for us to be able to do it. So, for example, right now, let's talk through some of my exposures. It appears, and this was a pretty common thing that I did in the conference finals, I pay down a bit more at captain to pay up at the other spots. I am getting a bit of Kyrie captain right now, but I don't have Luka captain, and I don't have Jason Tatum captain. I can handle that. I am at least neutral to the field on Luka in the utility, and I'm neutral to Jason Tatum in the utility. So Tolga, right there, that last line that you just said is exactly what I was just talking about. You're never playing Tatum over Luka. Thinking about it like that is super wrong. Super wrong. There will be countless lineups that you can make that project well via ROI, via top 10 rate, via win rate, that prioritize Jason Tatum over Luka Doncic. We got to stop thinking that every decision point here is binary. But the guys that I'm getting to right now, based on my data, Drew Holiday captain, Derek White captain, Jaylen Brown captain, my boy PJ Washington captain. Porzingis is a wild card. Love him in the utility based on my exposures. Don't feel the same sort of way about him in the captain spot. Yeah, Tolga, we're on the same page here. There's a difference between you can't take Tatum over Luka and I think Luka beats Tatum. Because those are two different things. If in your mind it's Luka over Tatum, then you are selecting your lineups based on that thought process. But to think that you can't take Tatum over Luka, wrong way to think about it. Bug boy. Can we have a conversation about how that dude Cabbage went yard? I laughed hysterically when I saw that pop up, man. It was such a given that dude was going yard yesterday. Oh my God. We could have set our watches to when he did that. Okay, so chat, I'm going to throw it to you guys now. Let's talk this through. Who do you guys see as like the ultimate success stories today in game one? Who are the guys that you think this matchup fits? Who are some guys you think might end up seeing a couple extra minutes now that the matchup is different? Who do you like because of this series? We're not talking salary here. We're not talking the logistics of the lineup. Who do we think this series fits the most? it's interesting. So like I took a look at some of the more like the way that these guys play. Boston doesn't really get to the rim all that frequently. So right now, this is shooting frequency in the playoffs. Boston, of all the teams that have been in the playoffs so far, is 15th at shots at the rim, 19th in the short mid-range. That's second from the bottom. These guys are not getting to the rim in any way. But what you can see is that above the break threes and just threes overall, nobody takes those shots more than Boston. Meanwhile, in the playoffs, Dallas, neutral in terms of allowing shots at the rim. They've allowed a bit more in the mid-range, and they're kind of middle of the pack in three-pointers allowed. You know, they're 10th. But they do really limit non-corner threes. So that's the from a scheme perspective, we've got Boston looking to take as many above the break threes as these guys can shoot. And we've got Dallas really good at taking away those above the break threes. Now, maybe we see Dallas giving up more corner threes. They are 18th in corner threes allowed in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Boston is the opposite. They don't allow corner threes at all. Number one in the playoffs so far. So as I look at this one, I want to think to myself, if Dallas is selling out more for above the break threes, who benefits the most from Boston in getting corner threes? The first guy in my mind is Al Horford. Now, I barely have Al Horford coming out of my exposures. I didn't get him at all at the captain, and I'm neutral to the 14% owned Al Horford. But if I'm right in this thought process, if Al Horford can get, if that's something that Dallas is willing to give up, you could see Al Horford play a game like he did in game 3, whichever game he played in the Eastern Conference where he hit 7 threes or whatever. Can that be a path for us? Because we also have incredible variability in Al Horford's playing time in this game. We have no real concept of how much we get out of Kristaps Porzingis today. That dynamic is interesting. Let's see. Looking through chat now. So how do you guys feel about that Horford thought? Do you see it the same way? Stephen Leibowitz, that's another great example. Drew Holiday, one of the league leaders in corner threes. Okay. Let's take a look then at Boston. Boston on the year. Shooting frequency, corner threes. So Drew Holiday in the regular season, 64th percentile in percentage of his shot attempts coming from the corner threes. Al Horford, 94th percentile of bigs, 25% of his shot attempts were corner threes. So Al Horford, Sam Hauser, 24% of his shots were corner threes. Horford and Hauser, and Hauser started seeing a couple extra minutes. I have 26% of him. I think this might be a bit of a Sam Hauser day. But yeah, Drew Holiday's right there. You barely see corner threes out of Jason Tatum, out of Jaylen Brown. These are the guys that are going to be shooting those above the break threes. But I think if we're thinking about it from the Boston side of things, I think that the way that these guys play fits Al Horford and Drew Holiday very well. What do you guys think? How about White? So Derek White shoots about 13% shots from corner three. Basically the exact same as Drew Holiday. I think that dynamic will be interesting. It strikes me as a spot where Drew is more likely to be in the corner on offense in this matchup if he's taking the Kyrie assignment on defense more often than not. I think that you're more likely to get Drew Holiday conserving offensive energy, which to me means probably in the corner more, and Derek White in the corner less. Not that I don't like Derek White. I have 20% of him in the captain spot right now, and I'm neutral at the utility spot. But when we're talking about the way that this game could go, I think Derek White ends up in out top less than the corner. Who's guarding Luka? I assume it's Jaylen Brown. John C., how many minutes do we think Horford plays? I projected Al Horford for 26 minutes. Manuel says, do you think it's a bad idea to pick Kleba as a captain? I do. How often do you think Luka hunts Porzingis tonight in the pick and roll? And whoever Porzingis is parked on, could we see more shot attempts for that player? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Luka's smart. He's gonna go at whoever he thinks is the weakest option on the floor every single possession. They have to. So yeah, Einsteinium. I do think that he is going to try to pick on Porzingis and see how he's able to move on the perimeter in a pick and roll. Because if he's dropping more, I'm really curious. Maybe he's dropping a little bit extra. They're sending help from a different side, causing that ball to swing. It's the chains of this are so confusing. Where you want to like, they know this, so they're going to do that, but they know that they know. So it's how many folds do we get of all of this stuff? It's going to be very interesting to see how Kristaps Porzingis is feeling and looking. I assume he's healthy. They didn't have to rush him. I think that, if things were going squirrelier, we probably would have saw him a week ago if he had to. So I'm not really sweating that one. Maybe we'll be wrong. Yeah, Horford does like to sit in the corner. He does indeed. You're not a 94th percentile shooting frequency guy in the corner without being there a lot. But as of right now, I'm going to walk through some of my personal most exposed guys to start. Drew Holiday is the guy that I have the most of. He's in 74% of my lineups. I'm basically dead neutral across both teams. I've got Jaylen Brown in 60%, Kyrie Irving in 60%, PJ Washington in 60%. I've got Luka in 50. I've got Porzingis in 50. I've got Derek White in for 50. I think it's easier to talk a little bit about the fades. I'm nowhere near Daniel Gafford. I think they're going to try to play Derek Lively more. And I'm not a big Gafford guy. So I personally am happy about my Gafford exposure because I do think that fits what we're getting here. I don't have any Jaden Hardy. I think this is going to be a pretty tough series for him. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets phased out by the end of it. I do not really have Peyton Pritchard. I think this is a bad series for Peyton Pritchard. I think Luka Doncic is going to make his life difficult. But after that, I don't really have any major fades. My biggest gaps in ownership are simply not having Gafford, not having Jaden Hardy, and not having Peyton Pritchard. The rest of this is either a stand or a neutral play. Bug Boy, thank you for the super chat. Here's some cabbage. Throw in another Millie Maker lineup. Love it. like, to me, like, if you like Josh Green, play more. If you don't, play less. I'm right around the field. These there's so many guys where I can't imagine wanting to. I can't look at this and think like, I think this is a Josh Green day. Look, we got to remember, like, they could bring Tim Hardaway Jr. back into the rotation in a different series. Every series is different, and the player personnel that exists on the opposite side of the game, the changes there can change what we see. Like, I would not be surprised at all if Tim Hardaway Jr. is a part of the rotation in one of the next two games, and they pull Exum or they pull Jaden Hardy. That could happen. Paul Ford, you're talking about it right there. I don't think any of that is actionable. I don't think we care that that's a thing. I'm just saying we got to remember now, this is a new series, new matchup. Rotation things can change. So Danny Chen, this is sort of what I talked about to start the show. You said, would you fade Kyrie, Luka, and or Tatum if you play two of the three? It doesn't matter. I would play whatever showed up as the best things that I could have. Because no matter what you're doing there, whether you're building lineups with Kyrie and Luka, with Kyrie and Tatum, or with Luka and Tatum, all of those combinations will be able to allow you to play high ROI lineups with any combination. At that point, that's where I think you start thinking, these are the guys that I like. Let's think about it now, looking at these Stokastic sims. So what I'm going to do is change this filter from contains Kleba to contains Tatum and contains Kyrie. So just so we can see it, 92.8% ROI in a lineup that contains Kyrie and Tatum. Okay? Let's switch Tatum to Luka. 80% sim ROI. Oh, that actually has all three of them. Let's add one additional filter to make sure we only have two of the three. So now let's look at it like this. Has Luka, has Kyrie, doesn't have Jason Tatum. 73% ROI. Okay? Let's remember that. 73% ROI. Now, contains Tatum, doesn't contain Luka. 92% ROI. You got an 82 as well, higher than that last one. Now, if we want to do Tatum and Luka, no Kyrie. 77% sim ROI. This is what that right there, that example is exactly what I'm trying to point out for what the Sims tool is. Whether you want that two-man combination of Luka and Kyrie, Luka and Tatum, or Kyrie and Tatum, all three of those individual combinations are all creating a lineup in and around 75 to 80% sim ROI. There's no right or wrong answer for wanting to play one of those lineups over the other. The perfect way to handle it, honestly, in my mind, is to simply choose the one you like the most. Because the work has already been done. We've filtered these lineups and created enough data that you can now make the choices based on your personal preferences without putting yourself behind the eight ball. And that's how I look at that kind of discussion point. All three of those combinations are equally as viable if you're trying to just simply choose one lineup. What we can do with that is the most important thing. Building out your lineup or your portfolio of lineups. You could play all three of those. You can think, I want to have two of those three in the three lineups I play. Maybe I get into a three max. Right away, you can grab those top three lineups of each one of those combinations and you're set up. And it took very little effort. Now, I'm really curious to see if I end up with this much PJ Washington at captain. He's been a bit of a problem for me. Einsteinium. What's the thought process on Gafford playing the minutes where Horford is on the floor? I don't think that they're going to be worried about matchups like that. Whether Gafford's out there or Lively's out there, I don't think Boston's making adjustments that way, or vice versa. Here's one thing I wanted to talk about with you guys. The Stokastic Hall of Fame. If you go, it used to be stokastic.com/avatar. We've revamped everything for our Hall of Fame. If you go to stokastic.com/HOF, this is the screen that you will see. We now have 6 different options for you to use our avatar on DraftKings and FanDuel or wherever you're playing. The system is still the same. If you finish in the top 3 of any contest with 5,000 or more entries, you win and you make the Hall of Fame. Depends on how you're doing it, though. The first time it used to be one and done for a year. Now you get a free month of any single sport of The Sims for your first Hall of Fame appearance. You get a free month of any single package for the sports and a week of any additional package. If you make the Hall of Fame again, you get a month of Sims All Access if you make the Hall of Fame for the 3rd time. That's a $550 value. Anytime that you win 20K or more in a contest and you have our avatar, you get a ring. We are making custom rings in boxes and sending them to you, commemorating you winning at least 20K. And then at any time, if you ship a milli, and I mean the milli, not chopping it with 150 people, you get a year of Sims All Access. All the terms and rules are here. All the screenshots of everybody that's ever done it. That's all here. But if you go to stokastic.com/HOF, you can click the link in the description, I would imagine. Grab our avatars. Grab one of the new ones if you like them. It's here for you. Okay. So that's where we're at for the Hall of Fame. What else do you guys want to talk about? Almost made Kristaps Porzingis minutes projection. I went 28. And that lined me up pretty well with the prop market for right now. So I feel pretty good about that. I think 24 is probably the floor in my mind, and like 30 is probably the ceiling. Yeah, King, I'll also take chopping the milli 150 ways. How do you think Dallas defends Porzingis or Horford on the outside? I think it's different for each guy. I think Porzingis is a real problem in this series. Dallas isn't exactly big like that. And if they're not able to close out on Porzingis in the pick and pop, I think he's going to get a lot of really clean looks. And we know Boston's looking to take those shots, take those threes from above the break. Antoine, that's just such a terrible way to look at this. You have no idea what he's been doing. To speak in such confidence that you know that Kristaps Porzingis will just have to be off is, again, the wrong way to look at things. How do I think the Celtics attack Dallas? Same way they attack everybody. Drive, kick, bomb threes. That's all they do. I don't want to like oversimplify it, but we talked about it before. In the playoffs right now, no one has taken more threes than Boston. 44% shots. 44% of Boston's shots in the playoffs have been threes. That's over 3.5% more than the second highest team, which was Sacramento. It's bombs away. It's bombs away. The interesting piece is going to be this. The Dallas Mavericks are first in shooting corner threes in the playoffs. Nobody has taken more corner threes than the Dallas Mavericks. No one has limited corner threes in the playoffs more than the Boston Celtics. Who wins that battle? Dallas wants to take as many corner threes as they can get. Boston wants to limit corner threes as much as possible. That is a swing piece in this series. Personally, I think Boston's defense is so good that they are more likely to succeed in limiting corner threes than Dallas is to exploit Boston and get more of them. PJ Washington going to have to hit his shots. Couldn't be more true. And other than that Oklahoma City series, PJ Washington has never shown the ability in the NBA to hit shots. Steven, I got this pulled up on the screen now, but I have 5 captains right now north of 10%. Irving, Washington, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday. The more I'm looking at this, the more I think that this is that game 1 is a good Sam Hauser game. Jamie Howard, Maxi Kleber increase in minutes. So I think he is a giant question mark here because I think they need him in this series in a big way. I think they want Maxi, if he can, to play like 18 to 22 minutes when this starts to matter. I think having a week off probably helped him a little bit, get more rehab on that shoulder. But I think long-term, Maxi over Gafford is something that happens from Dallas. Yeah, Antoine, I agree that like you just don't seamlessly move back into being able to play. But to just like hand wave a guy like you can't use him, he hasn't played basketball in a month. That's not how this works. These guys have salaries. We can make lineups with Kristaps Porzingis that project well. You can discount his projection if you think he's 85%. That still will put Kristaps Porzingis in good lineups. That's what I'm trying to say for all of this show today. Does Kornet get burned? Probably only in foul trouble situations. I think I projected him for like 3 or 4 minutes. White will have open threes tonight. See, Darren, I think it's Drew Holiday over White that gets more open looks because of defensive assignments. But I could be wrong. That's just my hypothesis for today. I'm getting both of these dudes. I've got 20% of White and 20% of Drew Holiday at the captain right now. Dallas will win tonight, but Boston is winning it all. Whew. That's a take. Oh, by the way, schedule for the rest of the day. I don't want to miss anything else that I could talk about here. Let me hit on it here quickly. MLB strategy show coming up next at 11 a.m. You get Laffy and Bellman. We also have a 3-game early today. Not that that matters for that show. 5:45 Eastern time. You will get MLB Live Before Lock with Greg and Eric. 8 p.m. tonight. 30-minute Live Before Lock, NBA style, myself and Greg Ehrenberg. And then on playback, you get Greg and I watching the first half at a minimum, and maybe more, of this game. We'll be exclusively live on playback starting at 8:30 all the way up until 9:30. Yeah, Darren, that's fine. Yeah, Steven, exactly. An NBA player who gets relatively open threes is worth playing. I don't care if he awoke from the dead. I completely agree. Completely agree. What's my nuke right now? Probably Drew Holiday. Based on just my exposures, but we'll see. Will I be consuming alcohol? No, I will not. Not today. It all comes down to threes, folks. It all comes down to threes. We've got a lot to talk about for this game and for this series. We're going to learn a lot coming out of game one and what we can do on game two on Sunday. I don't have anything else here for you guys. MLB Strategy Show is going to be coming up next. Sign up at Underdog too, by the way. One-stop shop for whatever you're looking for, especially if you're not in a legal sports betting state. Best ball, DFS contests, pick 'em. They hit everything. You could use our free NFL best ball rankings on Underdog if you want. Sign up using the link in the description of this video. Guys, this has been great. I'm so happy to be back and talking about basketball. I hate that we don't have a lot of this left. Kind of a bummer. But it's going to be fun to watch this series, guys, to see what Luka has in the finals and to see if this Boston team, who has been one of the best teams in the history of basketball since the start of the season, can they finish off what has been a full lapping of the entire league all year? They were unequivocally the best team in the regular season. They made mincemeat out of everybody's injuries in the East. They handled everything that they needed to handle, and now they're here with the ability to pick up a title. I can't wait to watch it. I hope you guys join me as well. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Guys, the strategy show is over. I'll see you at Live Before Lock tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you.